Hello and welcome to Coaching Skills for Success. This course is specifically for those of you who want to become a manager or who are already managers or leaders. My name is Ray Iannello, and I have been an HR consultant for many years, working in many different industries, most specifically manufacturing and healthcare. And I want you to think about your favorite coach, someone who may have been your coach in a sporting capacity or at work. And as we go through this course, the most important takeaway, the MIT, I hope you will be inspired to help your employees become the best versions of themselves by reinforcing appropriate behavior, teaching them new skills, and motivating them to grow. Throughout the course, I will ask you to stop and maybe reflect. You can always pause the video. What do employees want or need from their managers and why? People always say they want to grow. They want to learn. They want to be appreciated. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be kept updated. Think of other things you want from your manager. Sometimes people just want to feel safe. They know that their job is secure, that they can take care of their families. How do we find out each employee's why? Well, most managers will ask in a one-on-one, what is the most important thing for you about your job, about your career? Where do you want to go? Ask the right questions as a coach or leader. This particular course is for a company that took a survey, and the results of the survey are here. So we asked them how many years they'd been leaders, how many people they supervise. We see we have a good mix of audience. And then, who do you admire? What do these leaders do that we admire? And the overwhelming response was they communicate, they listen. You can see other attributes here. But again, out of 15 people, almost half said communication was the key skill. And in this group, they also felt that about a quarter of them listen well and communicate. A couple of them felt they were flexible and approachable. A couple felt they were caring. And as you can see, other strengths were listed, strengths that leaders need to demonstrate. What does this group want to improve? The number one skill was conflict resolution, followed by performance management. And I definitely think that coaching could involve conflict management if people become defensive when we're trying to help them. So that's one thing I want you to think about is when you're coaching people, what is their readiness? Are they ready to listen and grow? Is it not the best time? Some of the things that this group is doing well, they're communicating and they're checking in and they're asking. Very important. Never assume that you think you know what employees want. Ask them, where do they want to grow? Some people are very happy staying where they are. They don't want managerial jobs. They like maybe working with their hands, but maybe they also want to learn other tasks or work in other areas to understand the big picture. What could more of this group be doing better? More one-on-ones, making sure that it's in a private area, that also you have enough time to address the issues, maybe even telling the employees before you meet, what's the goal of this one-on-one? Are we going to talk about what's working well? Or are we going to talk about where you want to grow? What type of conversation will this be? Do you need advice? Do I need to just listen? Sometimes when we communicate with people, we have to first start by asking, what is this about? And what do you need from me? When addressing performance issues, this group mainly addresses them in one-on-one meetings or demonstrates how to do something and then lets the employee take over. Very few people ignore minor problems, but that's not necessarily a bad thing to ignore minor problems, because you have to kind of choose your battles. It's just like when you have children. Is it a nuisance? Is it a preference? Does it really matter? And I sometimes use the analogy of the toilet paper over or under, but I've got a lot of pushback on that example. Does it get the job done in whatever way the employee is doing it? If so, as long as it's not wasting energy or supplies or producing scrap or creating an impact or a problem that you don't want to see, then maybe the issue shouldn't be addressed. Choose your battles. So as we move on to the coaching segment, what is your definition of coaching? Interesting to me, with my background, I have a master's degree in rhetoric. I know, what does that do for you? Well, combined with work experience, it's very interesting to me, the nature of words and how people use language. We don't all define the word the same way. Is a coach at your side, ready to support you? Does the coach listen? Or does the coach allow you to fail and then talk about it? So a lot of people have different versions of what a coach should be or do, and none of them are wrong. If it works for you or that person you're coaching, I think it's really important to define your roles. What am I here to do? I'm here to help you to grow, to develop, to demonstrate your strengths, to use your strengths on a daily basis. Looking at the 4 essential roles of a leader, the first, most important role is to inspire trust. And we know that trust begets trust. In Stephen Covey's book, The Speed of Trust, he talks about the way relationships need to be built on trust. And the more trusting the relationship, the fewer conflicts you have, the faster work goes. People don't question your motives. They don't say, why is that person asking me to do it? And he asked somebody else, because they trust you. Also, employees want to know where we're going, what we're doing, how I fit into the big picture, reinforcing the vision, the what and the why of your company, executing a strategy, not being afraid to lead by example, to get your hands dirty, to show people the way. And very important in these top 4 skills, really look at your bench strength. How can you coach the people you have to grow into the roles that they want to have? What skills, what knowledge, what abilities do they already have? How can you reinforce them? And then what skills, knowledge, or abilities do they need and when? And technology is changing so quickly. It's very hard for us to predict what people are going to need in 2 years, 5 years from now. But all employees need to be ready by developing their skills all the time, whether that's reading, observing, creating a development plan. And speaking about plans, how do you plan a coaching session? What do you do? In our live session, we did some brainstorming. What are some steps? One step is, why are we start with the why. Why am I having this session with this particular employee? What is my goal? What is the outcome? Number 2, when is the best time or place to have this discussion? Because we don't want to have that power struggle with 2 people. I'm standing over you, telling you what I'm doing. Maybe having eye contact, being on the same level. And then 3, what issues and how many can we cover in the amount of time we have? Maybe choosing the most important issue for one coaching session. And sometimes just asking the employee, what is your greatest strength? How are you using it every day? What could you do to continue to build and capitalize on this strength? I love that question. And if you have the money, the time, the capacity to do some assessments with your employees, I highly recommend Strength Finders Working Genius, DISC, Myers-Briggs. There are so many wonderful assessments out there that can give you input to what motivates the employee, but also can help the employees to say, yes, this reinforces. I know I'm great with mechanics, working with mechanical tools. How can I use that to grow in my role? Before you coach, these are some questions. You'll get a copy of these slides, so you don't have to take notes, but ask yourself, is the person willing, ready? And do I think that person is coachable? Do I have any negative thoughts about that person? Can I set them aside? And as an HR manager, I've had a lot of problem employees that I inherited. I didn't hire them, but when I came on as a new manager, I was kind of told, good luck, and that's really not the way to set up the employees anyway, because you've already kind of given someone a heads up, like this is a problem employee. So you've got that person already has kind of a imaginary horns on their head. So have we kind of classified people as the good workers and the bad workers? And what could we do as managers to give everyone equal opportunity? But of course, there's also the reality check. What if the employee doesn't want to grow, doesn't want to listen, isn't ready to discuss an issue? It's like, my way works. Why should I listen to you? What if you haven't handled the situation well before? Maybe you raised your voice. Maybe you admonished them in front of other employees. What if the employee becomes defensive? We know that people become the most defensive when they're protecting their presenting self. So I'm a teacher, example. If you were to say to me, boy, you're a teacher, you did a lousy job presenting those slides, I'm going to get defensive and say, well, what could you have done better? What would you, and maybe my tone gets a little defensive, because to me, I want to be the best teacher. I want to do the best job. And I know I'm not perfect. When you identify a flaw that I think is a strength or that I'm working on, I'm likely to get more defensive, called pushing your buttons. And those of you who have spouses and partners, we all know those buttons. What to say that will anger or cause the other person to defend themselves. All right. So think about what could go wrong and be ready for that. One of the best ways to deliver performance feedback is through facts, focusing on the task, not the person. And facts can best be wrapped around your 5 senses. What do I see? What do I hear? What can I touch? What can I smell? The garbage is still in the pails in the lunchroom. They were supposed to be taken out to be picked up in the morning. It's making lunchtime uncomfortable for employees. Make sure you say the impact, what's going on. And then the person might say something, and you might say, well, did you forget? And they might say, oh yeah, I forgot. What could you do next time so that you won't forget? Can you put an alarm on your watch or your phone? Can you have someone remind you? Can you maybe split the duty with someone else so you don't have to do it you can do it every other week? All right. So when is it time to coach? And that really depends on the situation. Should you do it immediately before you forget? Best advice is usually within 24 hours. Otherwise, people think that you're having a gunny sack full of all the things they did wrong, and then you're kind of letting it out. Don't want to do that. But in general, you want to coach within 24 hours. General way to coach is best approach. Hey, Gil, I noticed, use I language. This is what I noticed. This is what was the effect of that. So we color code our equipment so that it's easier to find. And we found a lot of items in the wrong location, which wasted time and slowed our production. And now we're behind on this project. Something very simple. What's going on? Don't try to solve the problem. have the employee come up with options. What could we make this better? You didn't arrive on time to work. I've got a new baby. My wife is, postpartum. I tried to get out earlier. I couldn't do it. Okay, I hear you. You listen. What could you do to make sure that production is covered in case you're going to be late? All right, just phrasing the question so that the onus is on the employee to figure out and solve the issue. And then maybe if the employee says, I don't know, then you can suggest and create a plan together. Some of the elements of coaching, very important, is asking questions in a non-threatening, non-defensive, provoking way. What's going on? What do you think you're doing well? What do you think you could be doing better? We're not meeting production timelines. What do you think? Listening, withholding your judgment, maybe having them do some research or you doing some research. Maybe you want to show and tell how it can be done. Being very honest. Be careful with the sandwich approach. We won't want to say, good job, but people will only hear the but. So honest feedback. Is it positive? Is it constructive? And just reinforcing what you see. Catching people do something good. Stephen Covey talks about the emotional bank account. We tell people 5 positive behaviors before we tell them 1 negative behavior, and we're balancing out our bank account that way, because negatives are more likely to be remembered. Quick example. I tell you 3 things about myself. It's like, I love teaching. I love my grandchildren. I love a nice, strong drink on the weekend. What are you going to remember? You're going to remember the strong drink. That's the negative, right? So starting with the question, these are some of the questions you might ask. How's it going? What do you want to accomplish? Why? How do you think others reacted to you in the meeting or on our team? My favorite one is, what do we need to keep doing? Or what do you need to do to keep doing? If you're addressing the team or just person, what do we need to keep doing that we're doing really well? What do we need to start doing that we're not doing? And what do we need to stop doing that is not reaping benefits? Is it rework? Is it scrap? Is it burning out tools because of misuse? What is the issue? And then, how can I help you? In the slide deck, you'll also get lots of other questions. If you go online and you type in coaching questions, you'll find tons of links where they'll say 40 questions, 70 questions, 50 questions. And I've put a few in the resource list, additional resources slide as well. But you need to find the questions that work for you. You need to sound authentic. Sometimes I'll come home and I'll start asking my husband something and I'll say, did you go to a program? That doesn't sound like something you would say. Use your authentic voice. Be real, be caring. Show the employee that you're on their side. Some of the issues that you may have to address is lack of motivation. I just went to a fabulous workshop on this saying, hey, not everybody's motivated by the same things. You need to ask, or you need to find out, or you need to observe. How is the person? Some people love to have a day off. Other people are more motivated by money or fame or, getting that title, having the special parking space outside. What if they're not progressing quickly? How can you help them speed up? Are they in the right job? That's another question. There my HR hat comes on. Are they getting enough directions? Do they understand expectations? Have you clarified? Again, we don't hear the same meanings in words. Are there communication issues? We have many employees today, English is their second language. Maybe we have team issues where people are not getting along. Maybe other people step in and do the work so that some team members never get a chance to showcase or just say, hey, that person likes doing it. Let them do it. Or maybe we don't want to say sloppy because that's a very judgmental, but maybe they have looser standards. What is the standard? Now, in the regular session, we had a breakout practice, and I want you to think about doing this yourself. Asking someone, I need some coaching. Are you willing to listen to me? And then going in with that coaching issue. I have an employee, longtime employee. I'm trying to get him to grow so that he could take on more responsibility. He doesn't seem interested. What should I do? Can you help me? And then, of course, as the coach, you need to say, are you asking for my advice? Or are you asking for me to help you work through it? And some of the questions I would ask is, what have you tried? What has been the result? Have you sat down and had the employee create a development plan, et cetera, et cetera. And then get some feedback on how well you did. How many of you are asking employees, are you getting what you need from me? Interesting survey by Gallup showed that feedback, employees say they are not getting enough feedback from managers. Managers say they're giving more than enough feedback. And employees say that the feedback they get is not as helpful as it could be. So again, deep dive. You got to ask people and not assume that they're getting what they need from you. How can I be a better mentor? How can I be a better boss? What do you need from me to succeed and grow? How can I help you? All right, that brings us to situational leadership. This is an old concept that's been around for a long, long time. Bottom line is not everybody needs the same level of coaching, the same type of maybe managing, not micromanaging, but just look at your team. I want you to think about who's new, who may need a lot more instruction and training. Maybe they need the directions written. I'm finding more and more people like videos today, color coding, things that in their own language, maybe that will help them to follow steps or procedures. One of the manufacturing companies I worked with was doing soldering, and they showed this is what a smooth surface looks like. This is a surface with burrs. This is the one we want. This is not the one we want. And they would put pictures up. So find a way to instruct and train and guide someone who's new. And then people who are familiar with the task, sometimes we need to build their confidence. Maybe we need to show them how to do it better or easier. One of the things that for me, having worked at a Toyota location for 10 years, there's always process improvement. How could we shave some time off of that task? How could we make it easier or better? Can we, one of the things we often did is instead of making the part, we would have some sub-assembly done elsewhere, and that would shave some time off. We were able to make a car very, very quickly because of our sub-assemblies, because of our use of robots, etc. But explaining to the person why you have to do this in the amount of time, because the line is moving, and every time the line has to stop because of a problem, that is money out the door. So just showing them what to do. If they already know how to do the task, they know how to do it, but something's in the way. Maybe they're not motivated. Maybe they've got issues going on at home. Maybe there could be anything going on these days, especially with COVID. We're finding a lot of people are struggling with mental health issues. Have a sit down and say, what's going on? I noticed your work is not up to par as it always had been. Have that conversation. And those who are well experienced, can you delegate more? One of the biggest issues that managers tell me is they are not delegating enough. They're spending too much time in the weeds. They're not strategizing because they fear delegating that the task won't be done correctly, right, or in the amount of time necessary. So that's another class, but think about, write down all the things you do, and especially things you don't like doing, and ask yourself, is it worth your time to teach someone how to do that task so that you can delegate it? Or are there already people who probably know how to do that task, but you just haven't given them the authority to do so? Take the time now to write down the names of your team members who you supervise and ask yourself, what kind of coaching do they need? Do they need a lot of instruction? Do they need a little bit more encouragement? Do they need to get over some barriers? Or are they ready to take off? Are you ready to allow them to grow by delegating more tasks, by giving them a stretch assignment? Think about it. So far we've talked about what coaching is, identifying your strengths as a leader, situational leadership, how to plan a coaching session. Now, feedback. This is part of the communication. Blanchard and Hershey talk about, very famous, written a lot of famous leadership books, including the 1 Minute Manager. They say feedback is the breakfast of champions. So we know that when we eat breakfast, if you're going to have Frosted Flakes, that's just going to be a lot of sugary carbs. It's going to give you some fuel for a minute and it's not going to last. But if you have something like eggs or bacon or something, protein, nourishment, that's going to sustain you. It's the same analogy with feedback. Feedback needs to be nourishing. It needs to be well balanced. It needs to be fuel for you, for your soul, for your career. It's not necessarily constructive criticism. Feedback, we often, managers don't give enough positive feedback. Oh, I love having you on your team because I could always count on you in a meeting, or I can count on you to translate, or I know that you're a perfectionist and you'd never let an item that doesn't meet our quality leave the plant. Whatever you say to them, it needs to be helpful. And also you need to remind them of what they're contributing. You help our team meet its goals. You help our team look good. You help us meet our scrap quotient. Save on rework. Save on overtime. The first type of feedback, which most of us don't do enough of, and I will include myself on that, supportive feedback. What I want people to keep doing. Think about when someone's told you that you do something well, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to keep doing that because they really like it. Be specific about what they are doing, and then make sure you describe the impact. So I noticed that you're here early and have all your tools arranged for the project so that you can start on time, and you're doing a great job of meeting our deadlines because you're so well organized. This really helps our team. Be specific. Something I noticed, and impact. I really appreciate. Always thank the person. Thank you for being so conscientious. Reinforce the behavior. Be careful when doing this with the whole team because we don't want to seem like we're playing favorites. We don't want to be accused of favoritism. So you'll need to decide, do I thank the whole team? Do I thank individuals? When, where, how? Ensuring that it's kind of like, I call it breadcrumbs. We're sprinkling it all around and everybody gets a little nibble. On the other hand, constructive feedback, sometimes we have to give this because we want people to improve. Explain why. I'm concerned. I know that you want to do a good job. We're losing money because our scrap cost is much higher than we anticipated. Whatever reason, make sure you're approaching at the right time with the right tone for the right reason. Why am I telling you this? Or I might want to tell you this because, and this is something I've always used in HR, is I want you to be seen as a potential leader. Some of the behavior I observed this week may affect the ability of others to see you that way. Can I share that with you? And if they're not ready to listen, they're not, oh, no, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to be a leader. Okay. Maybe it's not the best time. Maybe we set up, okay, maybe to not, and then what I might say is maybe today is not the best time. Can we set up a time so I could just share my observations with you? And then you can do with the information, you can do whatever you want with this information. But my goal is not to waste your time. It's to make you a better person. And then always listen. Everybody has a reason, an excuse. You have to decide what word you're going to use. But we don't always understand what motivates people. And they, in their minds, they have a good reason for their behavior. Maybe it's easier, maybe it's safer, maybe they've always done it this way, they don't like change, whatever that is. That's when you have to decide, what do I do with that person? How can I help them to be better? What can I provide? Is it a resource? Is it support? Is it a demonstration? Maybe ask. And we know that the number one way people improve is by teaching. Can you get your best workers to teach others, to have a buddy system, to have a mentorship with another person? Do you have to do it all as the leader? There is a video. I'm not going to play it for you. You have the link in the slides. Bottom line, Simon Sinek, I really adore him as a leadership guru. You can watch his videos. They're very short. This one is, again, very short. Talks about feedback. When you are planning a conversation with your employees, keep it simple. Not the KISS, keep it simple, stupid. No, keep it short and simple. That's what KISS stands for. Today's people don't have a lot of attention span. So keep it succinct and make sure you tell the person why. I want to work with you. I want to see others appreciate what you do as much as I do. And I'm not sure that your approach allows people to see just how brilliant you are. And then when they do give you an explanation, here's what I'm hearing. Get those active listening. This is not an active listening class, but I'm sure you've all been through it. So what I'm hearing you say, I understand. Robert Bolton has written a book, fabulous, actually a couple of books, and he says that when we actively listen, we have to listen with the whole body, pay attention, put that phone away. We have to give minimal encourages. So maybe that might be shaking our head or saying, or making sure we have eye contact. And then we need to paraphrase if necessary. We're not parrots, but we're paraphrasing. So I'm hearing you say, and then we need to have kind of a reflection and a summary. So what is your next step? So what I'm hearing you say is you're going to start doing this. How? On your own, reflect on some constructive feedback you'd like to give. Of course, you want to give some supportive feedback too. Remember, 5 to 1, 5 positives for every constructive. That's going to balance out your emotional bank account. But practice giving some constructive feedback. And you might even give it to me. I did get some constructive feedback in the evals for this class. And some of the items I couldn't do anything about constructive feedback was, we don't want to have this remote. We want to have it in person. And I 100% understand that. Thank you for that feedback. Some other responses were they wanted longer breakout rooms. And I get that. Again, thank you for that feedback. I think it's important for us to have more time with each other than to listen to me. And I will make that adjustment the next time, if ever, I am hired by your company. So thank you. And the person receiving the feedback should say thank you, even if the feedback is not appreciated. I often use the example of my daughter telling me, Mom, you're getting crow's feet. You're getting lots more wrinkles. You need a facelift. Okay, that may be true. Thank you. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not going to do that, but I appreciate you observing and giving me that feedback. And I'm not going to get defensive. When you're my age, you'll probably have more. No, can't say that. For every class you take, I always say there's a nugget. There's something that I'm going to use. And I take a class pretty much every week. I'm kind of a learner junkie. Because I work at the college, I get a lot of opportunities to sit in on classes, or publishers always want me to look at what they're doing, give them feedback. That's how I develop my skills. I love to take workshops, to listen, to learn, to see what other people are doing. What are you doing to be a better coach? Are you observing the wonderful managers in your organization, what they're doing well? Are you taking classes somewhere? Lots of leadership classes abound in lots of free stuff online. Okay, selfeducation.com, I believe. Anyway, there's a lot. I just heard of one today. I haven't looked at it, but it's edx.org, edx.org. And I know they're always popping up, free classes all over the US. Of course, you also have YouTube and TED Talks, fabulous. What are you doing to develop? Are you asking for feedback? Are you holding one-on-ones and not only giving feedback, but asking, how can I be a better boss? How can I nourish you to grow? And you might even look into the GROW model of development for your employees. GROW stands for goals. What are your goals, your employees' goals? What is your reality? What's the economic environment? How big is your company? What kind of roles do we have? O is for options. What are our options? What could we do to get where we want to grow? And W is the way forward. So that's GROW, the GROW model. Look it up online. Lots of great. MindTools has mindtools.com has a great website. I could probably spend another hour telling you about great websites out there, because it's kind of up to you to develop yourself and help your employees to find what works best for them. Maybe book learning is not great for them, but maybe they could mentor or teach. Maybe they could attend a job fair or work meetings, run a meeting. Give them stretch assignments to do. Help them to learn and grow. Challenge them. Who can reduce the time it takes on this project? By doing what? What would you suggest? To wrap up, I hope that by listening to this video, that your most important takeaway is that you are inspired to help your employees become the best versions of themselves. And I hope that now you know how to use feedback to reinforce appropriate behavior, to use situational leadership to understand when and how you should step in to be a coach, and to motivate them to learn and grow, because employees are either growing or going in this environment. A lot of employees today, if they don't feel like they're making progress, that they're moving their career forward, are not staying with a company. And it's nothing personal, but sometimes it really is. I know myself, I stayed in a job for 12 years. I was making very low salary, but my boss treated me wonderfully. He knew I had young children. He worked with my schedule. He let me go home early when I needed to. I know I was grossly underpaid. I didn't want to leave my boss. How do you build that trust, that relationship that will make people want to give you their best when they are working? So what is your plan going forward? What will you do differently as a result of this workshop? And which of these resources will help you? And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many great resources out there. I've included a GROW model there. I've included how to plan a coaching session, 41 more questions for you. And if you go to YouTube and type in coaching, you'll get a load of videos, and maybe you watch 1 or 2 a week, whatever you can do to continue to grow yourself. You have my email address from your HR department, can put you in touch with me if you have any questions or concerns, if you would have liked me to discuss something differently or need a resource. I am available to help you. I really appreciate the time you spent with me on this video. And I do hope that we will meet again sometime, hopefully in person, and that you will use what you learned in this workshop to be not only a better boss, a better person, and to be very happy that you influence someone's life by being the coach they needed, the right coach at the right time. Good luck, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon.